Hair. During a performance, I sat on stage with a hairband. At this particular time, I was working for a major UK publisher who were based in London and Hemel Hempstead, and I would go to the office several times a year for 2 or 3 day meetings. Derek Wadsworth, who was a friend of mine, also I'm a jazz musician, and we played together, and I also, we're very good friends, and I collaborated with him on several projects. In fact, I made his first website. Anyway, he was somebody I used to touch base with when I went to London. He was actually, this time, the musical director of the rock musical Hair, which was at the Shaftesbury Theatre. It opened in 1968. This particular occasion would be in the early 70s. So anyway, I met Derek and we had a beer, etc. And I was invited to go along. Hair was a real cultural event, actually, in terms of changing the face of theatre to some extent. It actually opened the day after there was a change in the law, when in fact the Chamberlain was no longer able to put his boycott on and blue pencil what he disapproved of. Famously, of course, Hair, the final scene included a scene of mass nudity on stage, which now would seem pretty innocuous, but at the time it was pretty astounding. And of course, beloved of tabloid editors who, with their usual mixture of disapproval and titillation, of course, it was manna from heaven. Well, after we'd had a beer, it was time for Derek to actually get to the theatre. So we went through the stage door, and I must explain that in fact the hairband was actually a permanent feature on stage right for the entire performance of the show, and I found myself sitting in the middle of the band. The band, in fact, over its several years, had included some really important musicians. I mean, people like John McLaughlin, Alex Harvey, the guy who wrote Tubular Bells, and many others. And in fact, many actors emerged from this and they really founded their career. Elaine Page, Tim Curry, and many others. It was an important show and an important mover of counterculture at the time. Anyway, there I am in the middle of the band, stage right, in full view of the audience, of course. You know, they were looking at me. Well, not particularly at me, but they obviously could see me, and I could see them. So a slightly surreal experience. And off the show went, which I hadn't actually seen, so it was all new to me, as it were. One very interesting aspect of this particular band and the way things went was that the score was very, very carefully marked with the periods in the performance when in fact the band was not required. Periods of dialogue and repartee and action, etc., etc. But the band didn't actually sit there looking at it. The instant this point in the show arrived, the entire band got up, including myself, and shot out of the stage door and round to the Bloomsbury Wine Bar, where we had various drinks and conversations and chit chat and this. Of course, obviously the band knew each other very well, and I was just a visitor, as it were, but it was fascinating. And somebody, not quite sure who, it was Derek, would carefully look at his watch, and everybody would then file out of the Bloomsbury wine bar and shoot back in through the stage door and back on stage to pick up the cue for the next song. And this was the routine which went on during the entire show. It was absolutely an amazing evening, quite amazing, and some of the people I actually met there I got to know a little better later on, people like Alex Harvey, for instance, and a pretty unique experience. Hair ran at the Shaftesbury Theatre, and it ran from 1968 to 1973, at which point it was closed because basically plaster fell off the ceiling in the theatre. Quite whether this had been arranged or whether it was an act of nature or who knows, but that brought an end to what was actually a very, very memorable run in British theatre history. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please subscribe.